Big allegations about links to Russia have now engulfed former member of the European Parliament David Coburn, putting a fresh spotlight on past ties between some European politicians and pro-Kremlin campaigns. Coburn, who once sat in Nigel Farage-led MEP group, has strongly denied ever receiving bribes from Russia, telling the BBC that he never took money in return for pushing a pro-Moscow line. He spoke out after ex-MEP Nathan Gill, a former leader of Reform UK in Wales, was jailed last week for more than 10 years for accepting bribes to deliver pro-Russia speeches and media interviews. Nathan Gill, former MEP and ex-leader of Reform UK in Wales, was sentenced to over 10 years in prison for taking bribes to deliver pro-Russia speeches and media interviews. The two men served together as MEPs for 5 years, with Coburn leading UKIP in Scotland and Gill leading the party in Wales, giving them prominent roles in Farage circle. Prosecution documents showed WhatsApp messages in which payments were allegedly being set aside for Coburn, suggesting he may have been considered for the same covert funding stream as Gill. Those messages were sent in 2019 ahead of a meeting linked to 112 Ukraine, a pro-Russian television channel associated with Ukrainian oligarch Viktor Medvedchuk. Those messages were sent in 2019 ahead of a meeting linked to 112 Ukraine, a pro-Russian television channel associated with Ukrainian oligarch Viktor Medvedchuk. Gill and Voloshin discussed money for Gill and another MEP identified only as D, widely believed to refer to Coburn based on context and parliamentary records. Investigators say the message was understood as a reference to $6,500, a coded figure allegedly tied to the operation. Coburn was allegedly referenced in several other messages as well, where Voloshin is said to have outlined plans that directly involved him. Voloshin informed Gill that there was a big request for you and David, as he laid out a smart idea attributed to Medvedchuk. Coburn made no public comment immediately after Gill's jailing and declined to respond to detailed questions from The Guardian about the references to David in the court documents. At one point, he publicly questioned whether Kiev was ready for EU membership after the Ukrainian authorities shut down several pro-Russian TV channels in 2021. In 2018, Coburn and fellow UKIP MEP Jonathan Arnott travelled to Ukraine with Gill and gave interviews to pro-Russian media outlets, before later making statements on Ukraine during a parliamentary debate. Weeks after that trip, they spoke in the European Parliament, but Arnott has since denied any links to Russia, saying he never received money and that his remarks were not coordinated with Moscow. The head of the Metropolitan Police's Counter-Terrorism Command said Gill had used his leadership role to pressure and encourage other MEPs to speak in support of Russia, framing it as part of a wider influence effort.